My name is Melanie Thompson, and at 35, I built my physical therapy clinic from nothing but determination and student loan debt. After years of 16-hour days and ramen dinners, I finally created something successful. Then came the family dinner, where my parents casually slid legal documents across the table, announcing my sister would now manage my clinic and take 50% of profits. They expected a signature. Instead, I opened my briefcase, handed them Clause 3. 2. And watched my father's face turn ghostly white. Let me know where you're watching from and hit that subscribe button before I tell you how I protected everything I built from the people who should have been protecting me. Growing up in our middle-class home in Grand Rapids, Michigan, it didn't take long to realize I wasn't the golden child in my family. My parents, Richard and Susan Thompson, made no secret that my younger sister Allison was their favorite. While they attended every one of her dance recitals and soccer games, my academic achievements earned little more than a distracted good job between commercial breaks. The first time I felt a genuine calling was at 14, when my grandmother broke her hip. Watching her physical therapist guide her through recovery fascinated me. The way this healthcare professional combined scientific knowledge with compassion to literally help someone walk again sparked something inside me. I started researching physical therapy programs that very week, borrowing books from the library since we didn't have internet at home yet. My parents dismissed my interest as a phase. "That's nice, dear," my mother would say, before turning the conversation back to Allison's latest accomplishment. My father was more direct. "Medical school is expensive, and you've never been particularly strong in science." This despite my straight A's in biology and chemistry. By senior year of high school, I'd secured a small scholarship to Michigan State, but it barely covered a quarter of my tuition. My parents sat me down for what they called a reality check conversation. "We've been saving for college," my father explained, "but Allison will need that money for her business degree. She's always had a head for numbers." The unspoken message was clear: I was on my own. I worked 3 part-time jobs through undergraduate studies. Mornings at the campus, coffee shop evenings at the library, and weekends waiting tables. Sleep became a luxury, but I maintained my GPA and graduated with honors. The acceptance letter to physical therapy school arrived on a rainy Tuesday. I celebrated alone in my apartment with a single cupcake. Graduate school pushed me beyond what I thought possible. Student loans mounted as I pursued my doctorate in physical therapy each semester, adding tens of thousands to my debt. When classmates complained about their parents only giving them part of their tuition, I stayed silent about working overnight shifts to afford textbooks. During my final clinical rotation, I met Dr. Harriet Williams, a physical therapist who owned 3 successful rehabilitation centers. Unlike other supervisors who saw students as free labor, Dr. Williams invested time in teaching me not just clinical skills, but business acumen. "You have something special, Melanie," she told me one evening as we reviewed patient files. "You see the whole person, not just the injury. That's rare." Under her guidance, I developed a treatment approach that incorporated traditional physical therapy with elements of holistic wellness. Patients responded remarkably well, often recovering faster than those on conventional protocols. Dr. Williams encouraged me to document my methods, laying the groundwork for what would later become my clinic's signature approach. When I graduated with my doctorate, Allison attended the ceremony, but spent most of it texting. My parents came for the obligatory photos, but left immediately after for Allison's apartment warming party. Dr. Williams was the one who took me to dinner and gifted me my first professional stethoscope. My first position at Lakeside Rehabilitation Center started promisingly. The facility director appreciated my innovative approaches, and patients requested me specifically. However, office politics quickly soured the experience. Senior therapists resented a newcomer getting recognition, and my supervisor began assigning me the most difficult cases while taking credit for successful outcomes. For 5 years, I endured the toxic environment while meticulously documenting my treatment protocols and building relationships with patients. On weekends, I took continuing education courses in business management, quietly preparing for something more. The idea of my own clinic transformed from a distant dream to a concrete goal with each passing month. When I finally confided in my family about my plans to open my own practice, their reactions were predictably dismissive. "Businesses fail all the time," my father warned. "You should be grateful for a steady paycheck." My mother added, "Wouldn't it be easier to just get promoted where you are?" Allison laughed outright. "You, running a business, that's adorable." Only Dr. Williams believed in me. "The hardest part of building something," she said, "is believing you deserve to have it. The rest is just logistics and stubbornness." Armed with her encouragement and 5 years of careful planning, I gave notice at Lakeside and took the leap toward creating something entirely my own. What I didn't realize then was that the professional challenges would pale in comparison to the personal betrayals waiting ahead. Securing funding for my clinic became the first major obstacle in turning my dream into reality. I approached 7 banks with my business plan, financial projections, and treatment philosophy. 6 loan officers rejected me with nearly identical explanations: no family collateral, insufficient personal assets, high existing student debt. The 7th, a community bank with a program for women entrepreneurs, finally took a chance on me. "Your preparation impressed us," the loan officer said. "Most people come in with ideas. You came with a blueprint." Even with loan approval, the terms were steep. The interest rate reflected my high-risk status, and I had to put up my car and every penny of savings as collateral. One financial misstep would cost me everything, but I signed the papers without hesitation. Finding the right location became an unexpected blessing. A former pediatrician's office in an underserved neighborhood was available at below-market rent. The landlord, impressed by my commitment to serve the community, offered a flexible lease with an option to expand later. The space needed work, but had good bones and the necessary plumbing for therapy equipment. To afford the clinic startup costs, I moved from my modest 1-bedroom apartment to a studio barely larger than my previous living room. The bathtub doubled as storage space for my few possessions. I sold my furniture, keeping only my bed desk and a single bookshelf. Meals consisted of whatever protein I could add to ramen noodles, and coffee became both breakfast and lunch most days. My daily schedule became a testament to determination. I worked mornings at an urgent care facility as a fill-in therapist, afternoons consulting for a nursing home, and dedicated evenings and weekends to building my clinic. Sleep averaged 4 hours nightly, and my social life disappeared entirely. Renovation costs would have sunk the project if I'd hired contractors. Instead, YouTube tutorials became my evening companions as I learned basic carpentry, painting, and even some electrical work. My hands, trained for the gentle work of physical therapy, developed calluses from sanding walls and laying flooring. "You could hire someone," Dr. Williams suggested during one of her visits, "to check on my progress." "Every dollar I save on construction is a dollar toward better equipment for patients," I replied, not looking up from the baseboards I was installing. Equipment posed another significant expense. New therapy tables cost thousands each, so I scoured auctions and closing clinics. One Saturday, I drove 6 hours to purchase a gently used electrical stimulation unit from a retiring therapist. The woman, impressed by my dedication, threw in a traction table at no additional cost. "I remember what it was like starting out," she said. Pay it forward someday. My marketing strategy relied heavily on relationship building, since I couldn't afford traditional advertising. I visited every doctor's office in a 5-mile radius, introducing myself and leaving brochures I'd designed and printed at the local copy shop. Many receptionists tossed them immediately, but a few doctors took interest in my integrated approach. Creating clinic protocols, documentation systems, and treatment plans consumed my nights. I adapted electronic medical record software to my needs, customizing every form and procedure. The work was tedious, but essential for the efficient practice I envisioned. The emotional toll mounted with each passing week. During rare moments of downtime, doubts crept in. Was I foolish to think I could succeed where so many small businesses failed? Should I have accepted my family's limited vision of my potential? These questions haunted particularly difficult days. My sister Allison's dismissive comments continued whenever we crossed paths at family events. "This clinic thing is just a phase," she told our extended family at Thanksgiving. "When it fails, she'll come back to reality and get a normal job." My parents nodded in agreement, advising relatives not to encourage Melanie's risky behavior by referring patients to my yet unopened clinic. 3 months into renovations, a pipe burst in the bathroom, flooding much of the space. The landlord covered structural repairs, but my freshly painted walls and new flooring were ruined. Insurance barely covered half the damage. That night alone in my tiny apartment, I cried for the first and only time during the entire process. By morning, I was back at the clinic with new paint cans. Opening day arrived with little fanfare. Dr. Williams brought flowers and champagne. 2 former patients from Lakeside brought referrals. A local coffee shop owner I'd befriended catered mini sandwiches. My family sent a generic congratulations text that misspelled the clinic's name. I placed the flowers prominently in the reception area and tucked the champagne away for a true victory celebration someday. The first 3 months of operation tested every ounce of my resolve. Some days passed without a single patient. I used the time to refine procedures and personally call doctors who had expressed interest. By month 4, I was seeing enough patients to cover basic expenses, but nothing more. I continued working weekend shifts at the urgent care to pay my personal bills. Most evenings, I stayed late reviewing patient outcomes and adjusting treatment protocols. The empty clinic became both workplace and sanctuary, the place where I could fully express my vision without judgment or interference. Looking back those quiet evenings, laying the foundation for what was to come, were some of the most meaningful hours of my professional journey. The first significant breakthrough came 6 months after opening, when I developed a specialized treatment program for runners with recurring injuries. By combining traditional physical therapy with gait analysis and customized strengthening routines, patients experienced remarkable recovery rates. Word spread through local running clubs, bringing a steady stream of athletes to my door. Next came my Golden Years program, designed specifically for elderly patients with limited mobility. Unlike standard geriatric protocols that often underestimated seniors' potential, my approach emphasized functional movement and meaningful life activities. An 82-year-old patient who regained the ability to garden independently became my most vocal advocate, referring half a dozen friends within weeks. The waiting room still had empty seats most days, but a core group of loyal patients began filling my schedule. Their progress validated my treatment philosophy, and their personal stories reminded me why I'd chosen this path. Recognizing that many in our neighborhood lacked insurance coverage, I created a scholarship program offering reduced-rate services to low-income patients. The program operated at a loss financially, but generated immeasurable goodwill in the community. Local church bulletins and community centers spread the word, bringing patients who would have otherwise gone without care. My first employee, Jamie Patterson, came looking for an administrative position after being laid off from a medical billing company. Her organization skills complemented my clinical focus perfectly, and her salary stretched my budget to breaking point. For the first 3 months, I paid her before paying myself. "You should probably fire me," she said one evening, having noticed my worn shoes and the granola bars that constituted most of my lunches. "Not a chance," I replied. "You make this place work. I just make the patients work." Our partnership proved invaluable when the local high school football team suffered multiple injuries mid-season. The coach, whose mother had been a Golden Years participant, asked if we could help. We extended clinic hours to accommodate the team's schedule, and I developed sport-specific rehabilitation protocols. By season's end, most players had returned to the field, and we had secured our first major contract. 18 months after opening, patient volume necessitated expansion. Fortunately, the adjacent office space became available. The renovation process proved far less daunting this time, with Jamie managing contractors while I maintained the clinical schedule. We added 2 treatment rooms, upgraded equipment, and created a small exercise area for functional training. The local newspaper featured our expansion in a small business spotlight, introducing Thompson Way Physical Therapy to a broader audience. The article highlighted our community scholarship program and innovative treatment approaches. New patient calls increased 3-fold the following week. Growth necessitated additional staff. I hired 2 physical therapy assistants, an additional administrative person, and eventually 2 more licensed therapists. Each hire underwent a rigorous interview process, ensuring they shared our patient-centered philosophy. Our weekly staff meetings became collaborative sessions where everyone contributed to improving patient care. By our 3rd anniversary, Thompson Way employed 8 therapists plus support staff serving over 100 patients weekly. The waiting list for new patients stretched to 3 weeks, a testament to our reputation for quality care. I reinvested every penny of profit into better equipment, staff training, and expanded services. Financial stability arrived gradually, almost imperceptibly. One day I realized I hadn't checked the clinic's bank balance anxiously in weeks. The emergency fund I'd established had grown robust enough to weather unexpected expenses. My personal finances stabilized too, allowing me to move to a comfortable 1-bedroom apartment and begin making extra payments on my student loans. The Community Business Association awarded Thompson Way their annual Service Excellence Recognition, praising our scholarship program and commitment to the neighborhood. The crystal plaque took pride of place in our reception area, alongside thank you cards from patients whose lives we'd improved. Only after this public recognition did my parents finally visit the clinic. They arrived unannounced during a busy afternoon, surveying the bustling waiting room with apparent surprise. "So this actually worked out," my father commented, his tone suggesting he'd expected to find an empty, failing business. My mother added, "It's smaller than I imagined, despite the clinic now occupying 3 times its original space." They declined my offer to tour the treatment areas, staying barely 15 minutes before leaving for a lunch date with Allison. Neither mentioned the award prominently displayed at the front desk. Everything changed when Regional Business Quarterly included Thompson Way in their Healthcare Innovators feature. The 4-page spread detailed our unique treatment approaches, community involvement, and growth trajectory. A professional photographer captured our team in action, and the writer described the clinic as revolutionizing physical therapy care in the region. My phone rang the evening the magazine hit newsstands. Congratulations on the article, sweetheart. My mother gushed, suddenly interested in clinic operations. We're all so proud of what you've built. My father's call followed minutes later, his voice uncharacteristically warm. Always knew you had potential, Mel. You've done the family name proud. Most surprising was Allison's text. Nice write-up. Didn't realize your little clinic had gotten so impressive. We should talk soon. After years of dismissal and disinterest, their sudden enthusiasm rang hollow. Dr. Williams noticed their names appearing on my caller ID with increasing frequency. Success attracts all kinds of attention, she warned during our monthly mentor lunch. Some people only show interest when there's something in it for them. The first mention of the family business came casually during Sunday dinner at my parents' house. My father referred to Thompson Way as our clinic while discussing local healthcare changes. When I gently corrected him, he waved dismissively. Thompson is our name too, Melanie. The success reflects on all of us. Similar comments followed in subsequent weeks. My mother began telling her friends about our family's healthcare business. Allison referenced the clinic we're involved with during a conversation I overheard at a family gathering. Dr. Williams listened to my concerns over coffee the following week. You need to protect yourself legally, she advised, giving me her attorney's business card. Family business disputes are the ugliest I've seen in 40 years of practice. I made the appointment that afternoon unaware of how prescient her warning would prove to be. The invitation arrived via text from my mother on a Tuesday morning family dinner this Saturday at 6. Important discussion about future opportunities. Please confirm attendance. The formal tone, unusual for my casually communicative family, immediately triggered my suspicion. When I called to ask what future opportunities meant, my mother was uncharacteristically vague. Just some ideas your father and Allison have been discussing. Nothing to worry about. We're all so proud of what you've built, and we want to support your continued success. Her practice delivery sounded rehearsed, reinforcing my unease. I contacted Dr. Williams, who shared my concerns. This sounds like an ambush meeting, she said bluntly. Families rarely schedule formal discussions unless they want something. You should talk to your attorney before going. I scheduled an emergency consultation with Lisa Abernathy, the attorney Dr. Williams had recommended. After explaining the situation and my family's recent behavior, Lisa's expression grew serious. Based on what you've described, there's a reasonable chance they're planning to propose some form of family involvement in your business. Let's review your current legal protections and prepare some contingencies. We spent 2 hours examining the clinic's operating agreement, ownership structure, and bylaws. Lisa prepared additional documentation to bring with me, all securely organized in my leather briefcase. Be prepared, but don't go in defensive, she advised. Let them reveal their agenda first. And remember, no matter what they propose, you're not obligated to agree to anything on the spot. Saturday arrived with a knot of anxiety in my stomach. I dressed professionally in the same outfit I'd worn for the business magazine interview. The briefcase felt heavy with its contents as I drove to my parents' suburban home. Allison's BMW was already in the driveway when I arrived. She answered the door wearing a tailored blazer and pearls, a striking departure from her usual casual weekend attire. Her smile seemed fixed, her handshake overtly formal. Melanie, so glad you could make it. Mom and Dad are in the living room. Can I get you a drink, water, wine? The artificial brightness in her voice confirmed this was no ordinary family dinner. I declined the drink and followed her into the living room, where my parents sat stiffly on the sofa. A folder of papers lay conspicuously on the coffee table. Dinner proceeded with unusual attention to formalities. My mother had prepared my favorite foods from childhood, an obvious attempt to create a warm, nostalgic atmosphere. Conversation remained superficial, focusing on safe topics like weather and neighborhood news. No one mentioned the clinic or the important discussion that had prompted the gathering. Only after serving dessert did my father clear his throat and adopt what I recognized as his business tone from years of hearing him negotiate on phone calls. Melanie, we've been thinking about your clinic and its future growth potential. The family has been discussing how we might contribute to taking Thompson Way to the next level. My mother nodded enthusiastically. We're so proud of what you've built, sweetheart. It's time to make it a true family legacy. My father retrieved the folder from the living room and placed it beside my plate. We've taken the liberty of drafting some preliminary paperwork to formalize our arrangement. Opening the folder revealed professionally prepared legal documents with Thompson Way Physical Therapy Restructuring Agreement emblazoned across the top. Skimming the first page, phrases like family partnership management restructuring and profit distribution jumped out immediately. We see enormous potential in expanding Thompson Way. My father continued his confidence, suggesting the deal was already concluded. Allison's business degree and corporate experience provide exactly what you need to scale operations. Allison straightened in her chair. I've already identified 3 potential locations for satellite clinics. With my management expertise and your clinical knowledge, we could triple revenue within 18 months. My mother reached for my hand across the table. This is what family is for, dear. Supporting each other's ventures. We always envisioned all of us working together someday. My father flipped to page 3 of the document, pointing to a signature line. The agreement is straightforward. Allison becomes co-manager with equal decision-making authority. The Thompson family receives 50% of all profits moving forward. In exchange, we contribute the Thompson name and business connections. The audacity momentarily left me speechless. They had prepared legal documents, planned expansion strategies, and divided my company's profits without a single prior consultation with me, the founder and owner. We've already discussed this with Uncle Robert, my father added, referencing his brother who managed several local businesses. He's prepared to invest in the second location once we finalize this agreement. My mother squeezed my hand. This is what you've always wanted, sweetheart. Family recognition and support. Allison slid a pen toward me. I can start on Monday. I've already given notice at my current position. The presumption was breathtaking. After years of minimal interest and active discouragement, they now expected to walk into half ownership of my successful business. The business I had built while they doubted, dismissed, and diminished my efforts at every turn. I'd like to review the entire document first, I said, keeping my voice neutral despite the anger building inside me. I turned pages, slowly absorbing the extent of their planned takeover while they watched expectantly. My father shifted impatiently. It's all standard family business arrangement language, nothing to be concerned about. We should sign tonight so Allison can begin transition planning tomorrow. I continued reading methodically, noting provisions that would effectively give Allison veto power over all business decisions, despite her complete lack of healthcare experience. Another clause required my consultation with my father before making any expenditures over $5,000. The document even included provisions for bringing other family members into management roles at later dates. Just sign already, Allison said, her facade of professionalism slipping. We're doing you a favor by bringing proper business management to your little clinic. With deliberate calmness, I closed their document and reached for my briefcase. The weight of my briefcase felt reassuring as I placed it on the dining table. My family watched with curious expressions as I entered the combination and retrieved a slim folder with the Thompson Way logo embossed on its cover. Before we proceed with your proposal, I said evenly, I'd like you to review some existing documentation. My father's expression shifted from impatience to confusion. What documentation? The business is a simple sole proprietorship, isn't it? Actually, no. Thompson Way Physical Therapy has been a professional limited liability company since inception. I opened the folder and removed several stapled documents. These are the company bylaws established during formation and updated annually with my attorney. I slid the papers across the table. You might find Section 3, particularly Clause 3.2, relevant to tonight's discussion. My father snatched the document with visible irritation, clearly expecting to dismiss whatever I was presenting. He flipped to Section 3 and began reading aloud. Clause 3.2 Ownership Transfer and Management Restrictions. Thompson Way Physical Therapy LLC shall remain under the sole ownership and executive management control of founding member Melanie A. Thompson DPT for a minimum period of 15 years from establishment. Any proposed change to ownership structure, profit distribution, or executive management must be initiated in writing by the founding member and requires formal board approval. No family member of the founding member may assume management position or ownership stake without minimum 5-year prior employment history with the company and unanimous board approval. My father's voice faltered as he continued reading. The color drained from his face as he reached the subclause, specifying that any attempt to circumvent these provisions would trigger immediate legal review with all associated costs charged to the challenging party. This can't be legally binding, he sputtered the paper, trembling in his hand. It is entirely binding, I replied calmly. The document was prepared by Lisa Abernathy at Westbrook Legal Partners, reviewed by 2 independent attorneys, and filed with appropriate state agencies. It specifically anticipated potential family claims on the business. Allison grabbed the document from our father. You planned for this. You deliberately excluded your family from the beginning. Her voice rose with indignation. I protected what I built. I corrected her. Something I learned to do after years of having my achievements minimized and my efforts undermined by the people who should have been my strongest supporters. My mother's eyes filled with tears. Melanie, we're your family. How could you think you needed protection from us? The better question, I countered, is why you think you deserve 50% of a business you showed zero interest in until it became successful, a business you actively discouraged me from starting, a business you refused to contribute, single dollar toward when I was struggling to secure loans. I turned to Allison. You've never worked a day in healthcare. You know nothing about physical therapy regulations, treatment protocols, or patient care standards. Yet you expect to walk in as co-manager with equal decision-making authority over the welfare of my patients and staff. She bristled. I have a business degree from state. I've managed teams of 15 people at Connor Industries. Selling industrial equipment isn't remotely comparable to healthcare delivery, I replied. My therapists have doctoral degrees and specialized certifications. They would resign immediately if management suddenly shifted to someone with no clinical understanding. My father recovered enough to attempt negotiation. Perhaps 50% is ambitious. We could discuss a smaller percentage, 25 initially, with performance increases over time. There is nothing to negotiate, I stated firmly. I built Thompson Way without your financial support, without your encouragement, and without your belief in my abilities. I secured loans, renovated the space, developed treatment protocols, hired staff, and built our reputation patient by patient. What exactly is your contribution worth 50% or even 25%? The Thompson name my father answered weakly. A name, you reminded me, belonged to all of us just weeks ago when it became convenient, I noted. The same name that appears on countless documents I signed while taking all the risk and doing all the work. Allison stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. This is ridiculous. We're trying to help you expand, to make this a real business, instead of just a little therapy shop. Thompson Way grossed $1.7 million last year, I replied evenly. We employ 16 people with full benefits. We have a waiting list for new patients and receive referrals from every major medical practice in the region. By what definition is that not already a real business? My mother tried a different approach. Family businesses are stronger together, Melanie. Think about the legacy we could build for future generations, for your children someday. I have built a legacy, I answered. One based on clinical excellence, patient-centered care, and ethical business practices. Those values would be compromised by bringing in managers with no healthcare experience and no prior investment in our mission. So that's it, my father demanded. You won't even consider bringing your family into the business you built using our name. The business was built using my education, my labor, my reputation, and my willingness to take risks none of you supported, I clarified. And yes, that's it. Thompson Way will remain under my sole ownership and management as legally established in our founding documents. Allison stormed from the room, shouting about my selfishness and ingratitude. My father stared at the bylaws, seemingly searching for loopholes. My mother dissolved into tears, mumbling about family loyalty and broken relationships. I gathered my documents and returned them to my briefcase. I would have welcomed your support when I was working 3 jobs to make rent while building the clinic. I would have appreciated encouragement when I was sleeping 4 hours a night and eating ramen for every meal. I would have valued your belief in me when 6 banks rejected my loan applications. Standing to leave, I added quietly, "But I don't need or want your involvement, now that the hard work is done and the business is profitable. That's not partnership, that's opportunism." My father's face hardened. "You'll regret this, Melanie. No business succeeds without family backing in this community." "Mine already has," I replied, closing my briefcase with finality, "for 3 years and counting." As I walked toward the door, my mother called after me. "You're tearing this family apart over money. Is that really worth it?" I turned back one last time. "This isn't about money. It's about respect, recognition of effort, and the right to own what I've created. I'm not tearing anything apart. I'm simply maintaining boundaries that should have been respected from the beginning." Driving away from my childhood home, I felt a complex mixture of emotions. Grief for the supportive family I'd never had. Anger at their entitlement and manipulation. But beneath those feelings lay something unexpected: relief. For years, I'd sought validation from people constitutionally unable to provide it. Recognizing the truth felt like putting down a burden I'd carried far too long. The barrage began before I reached home that night. Text messages from Allison accused me of always thinking I was better than the family and throwing away our chance to be successful together. My father's voicemail started professionally, but devolved into threats about consulting his attorneys to review my documentation for weaknesses. By Sunday afternoon, my mother had called 7 times, alternating between tearful pleas about family unity and guilt-inducing monologues about parental sacrifice. I listened to each message, but returned none of the calls, needing time to process what had happened. Monday morning brought the first wave of extended family involvement. Aunt Patricia called the clinic, directly bypassing my cell phone, which I'd silenced. Your father tells me you've rejected the family's generous offer to help grow your little therapy practice, she began without greeting. After all they've done for you, this is how you repay their love. Similar calls followed from two uncles and a cousin each, reciting versions of the same narrative. My ungrateful rejection of family support, my selfish hoarding of business success, my inexplicable desire to go it alone when family resources were available. The version of events circulating clearly omitted key facts that my family had contributed nothing to building the business, that they'd actively discouraged its creation, that they'd shown interest only after profitability was established, and that their generous offer involved taking half the profits without financial investment or relevant expertise. The professional impact materialized quickly. A referring physician mentioned casually that Allison had reached out to express concerns about patient care standards at Thompson Way. A hospital administrator who had been discussing a potential contract suddenly became unavailable for meetings after playing golf with my father. The emotional toll proved harder to manage than these external challenges. Years of seeking approval from my family had created deeply ingrained patterns that therapy helped me recognize but couldn't immediately resolve. Sleep became elusive, and concentration during patient sessions required increasing effort. Jamie noticed the change immediately. "You're not yourself," she observed during a rare, quiet moment between patients. "Whatever's happening, remember you've built something exceptional here. We all see it, even if some people don't." Her support prompted me to share the situation with my core staff. Their unanimous outrage and immediate offers of support provided unexpected comfort. These people who worked alongside me daily understood the clinic's values and my commitment to patient care in ways my family never had. Dr. Williams invited me to dinner at her home, creating a safe space to process the betrayal. "Family business disputes are uniquely painful," she acknowledged. "The business aspects entangle with childhood dynamics and unresolved emotional patterns." She shared her own experience with siblings who had attempted similar maneuvers when her practice became successful. The hardest lesson was accepting that some people can only view relationships through the lens of what they can gain. It doesn't make them evil, just limited in their capacity for genuine support. Through Dr. Williams, I connected with a network of healthcare business owners who had navigated similar family challenges. Their stories varied in detail, but shared common themes: success attracting previously disinterested relatives, attempts to leverage family connections for business advantage, and the painful realization that establishing boundaries often meant redefining family relationships entirely. 2 weeks after the dinner confrontation, my parents appeared unannounced at the clinic reception desk. Jamie texted me immediately. "Your parents are here, no appointment, asking to speak with you. Security protocol." Months earlier, we had established procedures for handling potentially disruptive visitors after an angry patient's family member had caused a scene. I never imagined applying those protocols to my own parents, but their previous behavior warranted caution. Standard procedure: Conference Room B. Door remains open. Jamie stays within earshot. They appeared surprised when escorted to the conference room rather than my private office. My father carried a leather portfolio similar to the one that had held their original proposal. "We've reconsidered our approach," he began without preamble. "After consulting our attorney, we've developed a more equitable arrangement." He attempted to hand me new documents. I remained standing, hands clasped behind my back. "I've made my position clear. Thompson Way will remain under my sole ownership as legally established." "You're being unreasonable," my mother interjected. "We're offering valuable business connections and family reputation." Any business owner in town would jump at the expertise we're offering, my father added. Your stubbornness is preventing growth opportunities. My decision is final, I stated. If you've come only to revisit this topic, our conversation is concluded. I have patients scheduled. They left reluctantly after several more attempts at persuasion, my mother's parting comment, particularly revealing, "We just want what's best for the family business." It's not a family business, I corrected her. It never was. The following week brought a new challenge. Anonymous one-star reviews appeared on several healthcare rating sites, citing rude staff billing discrepancies and outdated treatment methods. Each used similar phrasing, despite supposedly coming from different patients. Our IT consultant traced the reviews to an IP address matching Allison's home internet service. With this evidence, my attorney sent a cease and desist letter addressing both the false reviews and ongoing attempts to interfere with business relationships. The escalation continued when my father emailed several staff members directly offering confidential discussions about exciting opportunities at a proposed new Thompson family healthcare venture. 2 employees reported this contact immediately. One admitted considering the offer until learning it was contingent on sharing internal Thompson Way operational details. Security measures became necessary. We implemented password changes, restricted access to sensitive documents, and installed additional cameras. I hated the growing atmosphere of suspicion, but recognized the need to protect what we'd built. The final ultimatum came via certified letter to my home address. My parents, writing as the Thompson family, stated their profound disappointment in my refusal to honor family obligations. The letter concluded with a clear choice: reconsider the family's involvement in Thompson Way or accept estrangement from the family unit. For days I carried the letter in my bag, reading it during quiet moments and searching for any indication they understood my perspective. Finding none, I drafted multiple responses before realizing no explanation would bridge the fundamental disconnect between us. They viewed my success as family property to be claimed and directed. I saw it as the hard-earned result of work they had neither supported nor valued until it proved profitable. These positions seemed irreconcilable. The grief hit unexpectedly during a routine patient evaluation. The elderly woman mentioned how her daughter had driven 3 hours to help after her surgery, and tears sprang to my eyes unbidden. I excused myself momentarily, confronting the reality that while I'd built a successful business, I'd lost the possibility of the supportive family I'd always hoped for. Dr. Williams recognized my struggle. The grief of family estrangement resembles mourning, she observed. You're not grieving what you had, but what should have been possible. Through therapy and conversations with others who had experienced family business conflicts, I gradually processed the complex emotions. The most difficult realization was accepting that my family's behavior reflected long-established patterns rather than a sudden change. Their current actions aligned perfectly with how they had always treated my achievements. 6 months after the confrontation, Allison opened Thompson Family Physical Rehabilitation in a commercial space 10 miles from my clinic. The similar name clearly aimed to create confusion and capitalize on Thompson Way's established reputation. My attorney filed immediate trademark infringement notifications. Despite these ongoing challenges, Thompson Way continued thriving. Our patient satisfaction scores remained exceptional, staff retention outpaced industry averages, and referring physicians consistently praised our treatment outcomes. The business succeeded not because of family connections, but through clinical excellence and genuine care for patients. In quiet moments of reflection, I recognized that succeeding despite my family's interference represented its own victory. They had predicted failure without their involvement, proving that prediction wrong became a powerful validation of my original vision. Exactly 6 months after the family dinner confrontation, I signed lease papers for Thompson Way's second location. The expansion had been planned long before my family's attempted intervention, but now carried additional significance. This growth represented not just business success, but personal vindication. The new facility, located in an adjacent county with limited access to quality physical therapy services, featured state-of-the-art equipment and additional treatment specializations. Jamie, now officially practice manager for both locations, coordinated the launch with characteristic efficiency. "We should plan a proper grand opening this time," she insisted. "The first location started with you working alone in an empty waiting room. This deserves celebration." The event drew healthcare professionals from throughout the region, local business owners, and patients whose lives had been improved through our care. Dr. Williams cut the ceremonial ribbon, her mentorship having proved invaluable through both professional development and personal crisis. Standing among people who genuinely celebrated Thompson Way's success, I realized I had built more than a business. I had created a community of support, a chosen family of colleagues, patients, and friends who valued contribution over competition and genuine achievement over family entitlement. This realization inspired the creation of Thompson Way's formal mentorship program. Modeled after Dr. Williams' guidance in my own career, the initiative paired experienced therapists with new graduates providing clinical supervision and business education. The program addressed a significant gap in traditional physical therapy education, which emphasized treatment skills but often neglected practice management fundamentals. "You're creating what you needed when you started," Dr. Williams observed during the program launch. "That's how meaningful change happens in any profession." Concurrent with professional growth therapy helped me process the family trauma more effectively. Sessions with Dr. Melissa Reinhardt, a psychologist specializing in family business dynamics, provided valuable perspective on patterns established long before the recent conflict. "Your family's behavior reflects their limitations, not your worth." Dr. Reinhardt emphasized repeatedly, "The parent-child relationship typically evolves into adult mutual respect. When parents cannot make this transition, adult children must establish boundaries for their own well-being." These insights helped me maintain minimal but civil contact with my biological family. Holiday gatherings became brief, structured interactions rather than opportunities for business discussions. When relatives attempted to broach the clinic's operations, I redirected conversations firmly but without hostility. This approach required constant vigilance against falling into established patterns of seeking approval or accepting unwarranted criticism. Each interaction improved my ability to engage without abandoning healthy boundaries, a skill that strengthened both personal and professional relationships. The distance from family manipulation allowed me to recognize similar patterns in other relationships. A vendor who used guilt tactics suddenly appeared manipulative rather than persuasive. A potential partner whose interests seemed contingent on business success reminded me uncomfortably of Allison's behavior. These recognitions allowed me to build connections based on mutual respect rather than obligation or advantage. 9 months after opening our second location, I developed a workshop titled Protection Strategies for Healthcare Entrepreneurs. Initially presented at a regional physical therapy conference, the program addressed both legal and interpersonal aspects of practice protection. Without specifically mentioning my family situation, I incorporated lessons learned from that experience alongside practical business advice. The workshop's unexpected popularity led to invitations from other healthcare associations. Helping practitioners protect their professional efforts while navigating complex relationships became a secondary mission beyond patient care. Many attendees shared similar stories of boundary challenges with family colleagues or business associates. Your presentation helped me recognize patterns I couldn't name before, wrote one physician who had almost signed partnership papers with manipulative colleagues. Setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's necessary for sustainable practice. This broader impact provided meaning beyond business success, transforming difficult experiences into valuable lessons for others. The work became healing in itself, converting personal pain into professional purpose. Nearly a year after our confrontation, an unexpected letter arrived at my home address. My father's distinctive handwriting covered 3 full pages with something I'd never witnessed from him: self-reflection. "I've spent months angry about your refusal to include family in your business," he wrote. "Recently, I've begun considering why you felt such protection necessary. Looking back at our response to your early career choices, I recognize patterns of dismissal and conditional support that likely contributed to your caution. While I still believe family businesses have unique advantages, I acknowledge our approach was fundamentally flawed. Your success deserves recognition on its own terms." The letter concluded without demands or expectations, simply expressing hope for a relationship based on mutual respect rather than business entanglement. Its sincerity remained uncertain, but the acknowledgement itself marked a significant shift from previous interactions. My response, sent after careful consideration with input from Dr. Reinhardt, expressed appreciation for his reflection while maintaining appropriate boundaries. "I remain open to rebuilding our relationship as family members, with mutual respect for each other's separate professional endeavors," I wrote. "That process will require time and consistent demonstration of changed perspectives." Small steps followed gradually. My mother called occasionally limiting conversations to personal topics rather than business matters. My father attended a community fundraiser where I presented on Thompson Way's scholarship program, offering genuine congratulations afterward. Allison remained distant, her competing clinic struggling without the established reputation and clinical expertise that distinguished Thompson Way. These tentative reconciliation attempts progressed on my terms, with boundaries firmly established and consistently maintained. Dr. Reinhardt described this as controlled contact rather than full reconciliation, an approach that protected my well-being while allowing for potential relationship improvement over time. Throughout this complex family navigation, Thompson Way continued flourishing. Our second location reached capacity within 18 months, prompting discussions about a third facility. Staff expanded to include specialists in pediatric therapy, sports rehabilitation, and neurological recovery. The mentorship program partnered with 2 physical therapy schools to provide clinical rotations for doctoral candidates. The journey from struggling student to successful business owner had progressed through unexpected challenges and victories, teaching lessons beyond entrepreneurship. I learned that genuine support comes from respect for effort rather than expectation of benefit, that boundaries protect not just business assets, but personal well-being, that success built on authentic value withstands attempts at manipulation or appropriation. Most importantly, I discovered that building something meaningful requires protecting it appropriately, whether from external competitors or family entitlement. The briefcase containing Clause 3.2 remained in my office as a reminder that preparation and foresight had preserved what passion and persistence had created. Looking toward the future, I feel neither bitterness about past family dynamics nor anxiety about potential interference. The business stands securely on its own foundation, its success determined by the quality of care we provide rather than family connections or external validation. Have you ever had to protect something you built from people who should have been supporting you? How did you handle that difficult situation? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe to hear more journeys of building success on your own terms. Remember, sometimes the strongest foundations are built by those who were told they couldn't succeed without help. Thank you for listening to my story, and I wish you courage in protecting what matters most to you.